You know, just me, but I think this tax cut thing, pro or con, is going to decide the November election. I know you might think I'm crazy, but why else would Mike Pence be out in Arizona right now pushing this? Why else would everyone on both parties here be arguing over this? Because it's had a demonstrable effect on our economy. Now, you can argue how much, but there's no denying the fact that you have more money in your pocket and you are spending it. And in fact, a lot of you on Apple products. We'll detail all that tomorrow. But the 5, for now, is now.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kimberly Guilfoyle, along with Juan Williams, Jesse Waters, Dana Perino, and Greg Gutfeld. It's 5 o'clock in New York City, and this is the 5. What does Robert Mueller want to ask President Trump? Well, dozens of questions are now out in the public for the world to see. Questions that were reportedly read to the president's legal team in March that leaked to the media. The president calls the leaks disgraceful in a tweet. Sarah Sanders directed questions to Mr. Trump's legal team at the briefing earlier, but her deputy, Raj Shah, had this to say.
I don't know the veracity or the accuracy of that leak, but if they are accurate, the overwhelming majority of those questions don't focus on the underlying premise of this special counsel, which was to focus on this issue of collusion with the Russian government. There's been over a year of investigation. There have been dozens of witnesses, thousands of documents, millions actually of pages of documents provided, and zero evidence, not a shred of evidence of collusion between the Trump campaign and the Russian government.
Alan Dershowitz thinks there's a strategy behind these questions from the special counsel designed to trip up President Trump.
The questions are very inartfully drawn. They are written as open-ended questions. They're really designed to let him ramble and talk, and I suspect that's the strategy of the special counsel, because they know that may be President Trump's weakness. If they were to ask him direct, tough questions to which he can answer yes or no, that might not give them the advantage they're seeking.
Okay, so that's Dershowitz discussing the strategy, Dana, that he thinks is being employed here to say, listen, ask these questions open-ended, et cetera, so he can give a long and lengthy answer, and there may be some meat and details in there to trip him up.
I don't know, because I think that they're professionals enough to know that, like, maybe they have something, maybe they don't. Like, actually, none of us really know. But I do think, yes, that the questions were open-ended. As I understand it, it's really unusual for anyone to be given a list of, especially 44 questions or 49, however many it was, beforehand. I could see why they're open-ended, because if you started providing all the questions that you would want a yes or no answer to, then, of course, that would look a little weird, too. To me, this is the range of topics that we want to go over with him. And yes, many of these could be a wolf in sheep's clothing, as James Trusty, who is a lawyer on the 2 o'clock show today, was saying that, yeah, this could end up being something where you don't want to have your client do an interview. I think that possibly was the strategy behind the leak. I don't think this leak came from the Mueller team. I do think that it came from somebody either associated with the legal team or something like that, to say, you know what, get it out there, let everybody start talking about it, and then either for the lawyers to be able to say, see, Mr. President, everybody thinks that you shouldn't do an interview with Mueller, and try to get him to agree.
Okay, all right. So, Greg, and how do you see it? Do you agree with your co-counsel?
I think the leak came from Fox and Friends. Treasure trove. We keep hearing the phrase.
That's helpful.
We keep hearing the phrase treasure trove. This is a treasure trove.
Right.
Maybe, but it might be a treasure trove for Republicans, because this, if you're going to be counting on winning the House, I don't know if this Russian stuff is actually going to help you. Yep. I think over time this is becoming a squalid distraction, and the more insane it gets, I think the more it actually helps Republicans. I think that Trump should say, yeah, because the fact is, when you look at what's going on in the world, what's missing? What are we not seeing now that we used to see doing the 5? ISIS videos. Almost every week we saw an ISIS video. For months we talked about the nuclear threat of North Korea. These are 2 existential threats that are missing from our news feed. And I do think the media is completely unprepared to report Trump's successes. They don't have that in their toolbox. You have the 2 major things missing, and you don't know what to report. So you focus on pornography, and you focus on collusion, which is falling apart and has been falling apart. Now this is going to become about obstruction, but they don't have that in their toolkit. So they're left doing this. And what's the end result? I don't know really what they want. I've said it's about impeachment. But if you impeach a president in the middle of some really historic achievements, history will not be kind to you. The voters will not be kind to you. No one will be kind to you.
That's interesting. So you're saying the media has got a very empty box of tools, like Snap-on tools, Snap-on media, Snap-on
Exactly.
bias. That's it. Okay, two hands.
Snap-on turtles.
Yeah,
Well, I think
snapping turtles.
they don't care if he fails. They
Yeah.
I think they're more worried about him succeeding, because when
Yeah.
Trump succeeds, it just shows that a non-politician could come in and rewrite the game. I'm terrified of these questions, Kimberly. I looked at these questions last night. I don't think that Mueller has a case against the president, but it's clear he is building a very, very deadly serious case against the president. I wouldn't go near Robert Mueller with these questions. If you answer these questions under oath, you're going to be impeached. This is very, very dangerous. Here's why. Half a dozen of these questions are about his tweets. I mean, if you can get indicted for tweeting something, that is crazy. I think Mueller's trying to criminalize the exercise in presidential power. Look at this, the Flynn thing. They asked one question: did you discuss pardoning Flynn? Is that illegal to discuss pardoning somebody? Where is that going?
Well,
the whole thing. I mean, it's an obstruction case. Let's be honest with you. Again, the Hatch Act, that's what they're going after Flynn for.
Yeah.
You can't, as a transitional officer, talk to your counterpart in Russia a month before your boss is sworn in. Every administration does that. Why is this criminal? That act hasn't been used for 2 centuries. Look at the Comey stuff. It's about his dinners, his phone calls, what he was thinking when he fired Comey. It's about a thought crime. You have to, in order to charge obstruction, you have to show corrupt intent. Now, if Hillary Clinton deleted 30,000 emails after they were subpoenaed and Comey couldn't find intent there, I don't see how they can find that with President Trump.
When you look at the juxtaposition.
Yeah,
Right.
Sessions, they're asking about Jeff Sessions, you know, when you tweeted that he wasn't tough enough on Hillary, what did you mean by that? I mean, it sounds like it's like a therapist in a room with a client. These don't sound like, this is trying to get into the mind of the president. And that's a dangerous place to be for a number of reasons, especially when you're trying to prosecute these thought crimes, these process crimes like a perjury or an obstruction. Look at the collusion case. It's about the meeting at Trump Tower. Remember, this lawyer comes in, says she has dirt on Hillary. She ends up having nothing, wants to discuss adoption, and they kick her out of Trump Tower in 15 minutes. But guess what? Right before she goes into Trump Tower, she meets with the founder of Fusion GPS, the guy behind the dossier. Who else granted her an
there's the collusion.
Right, who granted her an extraordinary visa to come into the country at the last second? Loretta Lynch. Mueller hasn't even interviewed the Russian lawyer. He hasn't even interviewed her yet. So the only thing that I don't understand is they're asking a question about Manafort. And, you know, maybe he reached out to the Russians or the Russians reached out to them. That's new information that I haven't seen. That's pretty alarming. But most of these questions, it's a danger zone.
Oh, my God.
To quote Kenny Loggins.
It is a danger zone out there.
The danger zone. All right, Juan, so there was a litany there that Jesse went through, but we could see his color flushing at certain points.
No, that's just the jacket.
More excessively than others. But
By the way, I'll have a good humor bar.
yeah, exactly. So you're talking about they did interview this lawyer, and she spoke with people from the Fusion GPS before going into that. So it looks like there was some kind of meeting of the minds there, or specific intent to try to go in and trap somebody. So what's going on with that, and why hasn't Mueller followed and connected the dots there?
I think you have her meeting with them before he has her meeting with. I mean, she's not meeting to discuss what she was meeting to discuss with Donald Jr., which was apparently dirt on Hillary Clinton. And of course, we know that the campaign should not have been involved with that. They should immediately call the FBI and said, somebody's trying to interfere here, a foreign power, foreign government that's actually
Hillary
quite
paid for a
adversarial.
foreign power to
Oh,
interfere
don't
to get the
stop.
warrant.
That's not true.
Yes, it is.
Anyway, it's not true, but let me just continue for the moment.
Well, we have
I
the
think
money
what we're
trail
dealing
on.
with here is the ongoing negotiations over whether or not Mueller gets to talk to Donald Trump. And so you had John Dowd, who was the president's lawyer, saying, don't ever talk to this guy. This will trip you up, and we know you're given to hyperbole and sometimes to fabrication, and then you'll get caught up in some kind of lying thing. Don't do it. Trump was not listening to Dowd. Dowd exits. In comes Rudy Giuliani, who last week met with Mueller, has worked with Mueller in the past. Lots of talk today about who leaked this, And I'm sorry to say that much of it is about Rudy Giuliani as the new guy, the new player on the block. And what would Giuliani's intent be in leaking this document? I think you heard it earlier, some of my colleagues here say, they think it's an effort to put pressure on Trump so that Trump says, oh, I'm disgusted with all this, I'm never going to do this. If I add that several lawyers are saying today that if in fact it was Trump or Trump's surrogates who leaked this, that may in fact contribute to an obstruction of justice case. So I mean, this gets crazy. It does get crazy. But the idea is that the majority of the questions do relate, as you were saying, Jesse, to obstruction of justice. It's not to say that it's the effort to try to prove collusion is now defunct. To the contrary, as you point out, there's the outreach element, Paul Manafort outreach. There's the question about Flynn having discussions with Sergei Kislyak, the Russian ambassador.
Well, you know
there's
that every
questions
administration do that.
No. Not while the other guy's in office. You do not undercut American foreign policy. That
so you
is
can't get in touch with your counterpart as you're coming in as the national security
You can get in
advisor?
touch. You can introduce yourself, but you do not have discussions about sanctions. So what you're also seeing is that people are saying, you know, that if Trump leaked it, there's a problem. If Trump leaked it, then where do we go with this? And I think the answer is that Trump never talks to Mueller.
Can I do something that no one else will do?
Yes.
I would like to connect this entire story to Iran. All right? How does one do that? Whether it is Mueller, collusion, or Iran, all of this is about President Obama, his feverish, fanatical commitment to preserve his legacy.
Iran nuclear deal.
He sold us out on Iran for his legacy. He made common cause with Putin. That's the real collusion, because Putin, to get to Iran, to keep the Iran deal, remember the red line didn't happen? That was because of Syria and because of Russia and because of Putin. So when Trump got elected, that threw everything into disarray, right? President Obama was not prepared for that to happen. So he's thinking Iran deal. He's also thinking, holy crap, what about my legacy in general? The machine gets back to working to defend his legacy. The machine starts. Obviously, Obama knew about the tarmac meeting. He knew about the dossier. He knew about the Clinton investigation. He knew about the FISA war. If he didn't know about that stuff, what the hell was he doing?
So he can't win. In your opinion, Obama can never win?
No, he's responsible for all of this. Impeach Obama. Impeach. I built a time machine. I built a time machine while I was watching Kanye on TMZ. And I'm going back to impeach Obama.
What about Clinton? Impeach Hillary. Lock her up.
No, I would go back and impeach Bill.
Okay, and what about the Peace Prize?
Yes, I'll do it twice.
Okay, all right.
This one will stick.
All right, Greg, join us. Roseanne Barr has a very direct message for all those knocking her support for President Trump, and it is coming up next. Stay with us.
Roseanne Barr is refusing to back away from her support of President Trump and is using some colorful language to fire back at critics.
With a big hit comes people that aren't so happy as well. If you say that you're a supporter of Donald Trump or...
Oh, yeah, people are mad about that.
Yeah.
But, you know, I don't give a Everybody had to choose for themselves, according to their own conscience, who they thought was the lesser of two evils. So I'm not going to put anybody down who didn't vote like me. This is America. It's a free country. And, you know, when you weigh it all together, you know, I just felt like we needed a whole new thing, all the way, bottom to top.
Her Trump support isn't the only thing that has the left riled up. Liberals are now also telling Kanye West to shut up after his comments about the president. Here's Congressman Maxine Waters, no relation, quote, "Sometimes Kanye West talks out of turn, and perhaps sometimes he needs some assistance in helping him to formulate some of his thoughts. We don't think that he actually means to do harm, but we're sure he really understands the impact of what he's saying." Not sure. I think maybe he should think twice about politics and maybe not have so much to say. So, Greg, I have to start with Maxine here. Has trouble formulating his thoughts?
You know, she was right in the front part and wrong at the last. He does talk out of turn. And we should all be talking out of turn. That's what happens when you talk out of turn. He actually left the box that she wanted him in, and there's what she's going, you know, you really shouldn't do that. You should really say exactly what we expect you to say, and that's what happened. So that's what, and same thing with Roseanne. The reason why people are upset is because it's not like liberal celebrities pushing climate change on you, right? Everybody gets that. Once a celebrity says something that is not part of the liberal world, all hell breaks loose, and it's because they're actually leaving their bubble. So they get this up. If you saw Kanye West right now, today on TMZ, when him and Candace Owen were there, it was insane how they treat it. It was one of the most vibrant discussions, and it's necessary to hear this stuff because you don't hear it because the entertainment industry is so uniform, and they expect you to live by a certain kind of belief system, and so it's refreshing. And I thought that the way she swore. I don't like people swearing for the sake of swearing, but that was very natural.
Yeah, she dropped that pretty effectively. So Greg says the entertainment industry is pretty uniform, also the media industry, and probably, Hollywood, the same thing.
I think entertainment even way more so
right.
than the media.
So when people get out of line, get back in line.
So over the weekend, Jesse, I read a novel.
How many?
No, well, I reread a book that I read as a kid. It was A Wrinkle in Time by Madeleine L'Engle.
Yes, by Madeleine L'Engle, yes.
Yes, and I'm sure you remember it. And I tried to remember, why did I like that? Why did I read that book over and over again as a kid? And what we teach children, as your parents try to teach children, is that you shouldn't be individualistic. You should embrace all of your independent thoughts. That whole book is about nonconformity and about rejecting being the same. And why are you laughing?
Oh, not.
You're laughing at me?
No.
We're listening.
I was listening.
Paranoid.
Aw.
So we teach children that, and then at some point, it's been turning around. And we're going to get to Greg's segment in the D block, which is even more of this. Like it's spreading like a disease. It's why it's important to remember those stories that you're taught as a kid, which is being different and expressing yourself should be encouraged in America.
Yeah, why can't you tolerate difference, Juan?
I don't think this is about difference or nonconformity or jumping out of a box. I think this is about having a thought that is not properly formed, and that's why you heard Maxine Waters say, he needs help formulating his thinking.
He's an expert.
Everybody encourages original thinking. We all want new ways of thinking or the light to turn on and say, hey, that's a great idea. This will solve America's problems. But what you get from Kanye West is just kind of, where'd that come from? He suddenly says, oh yeah, I'm a Trump supporter because I was in the hospital. He said, come on over. And you say, well, what does that have to do with anything? And he has no answer for that. And then you say, oh, but it's about blacks all thinking in the box. What, you think black people can't think for themselves and don't have the capacity to say, is this good for our community? Is this good for me and my family? Of course people can. But people come to that on the basis of real substantive actions taken or not taken by the person you're discussing, Donald Trump. So I think it's kind of insulting to black Americans to say, oh, Kanye says something, and now, oh gosh, all the conservatives, all the Trumpites we're Kanye fans. I don't think you were Kanye fans back after Katrina. He was going after Bush. I don't think when he was saying, oh, Cosby's innocent, I don't think you were big Kanye fans. But now, everybody on the right, oh, Kanye.
He just came out in favor of gun control.
Yeah,
I'm still okay with him.
Kimberly, what if Trump's policies were good for black America? I mean, you have seen low black unemployment, lower food stamps, shootings down in Chicago. Things are getting a little bit better under his presidency. Would he get any credit in the black community for that?
Yeah, I would believe and hope that he would, in fact, because people can see and feel tangible results, whether you see that crime is down or streets feel safer or the job market has improved, the economy, the numbers in terms of people being able to provide for their families, feeling a little less, tightening of the belt in terms of trying to really hold back money or worry about finances, etc. People care about safe communities and their children being able to go to schools. They care about being able to buy groceries at the end of the week and celebrate family birthdays and things like that. That's what everybody cares about universally, and no community should be left behind. And I think it's important to acknowledge inroads that the president is making in the black community and trying to help with minority communities
Let me just
that have felt
quickly,
disenfranchised.
let me pick up quickly on something you were saying, which is that Bob Johnson, the billionaire creator of black entertainment television, the other day he was on TV praising President Trump. Nobody reacted to him. You know why? He said specifically that he was thrilled with the lower unemployment numbers. Yes, it started under Obama, but has continued under
Well, then why did all the Congressional Black Caucus sit on their hands when they announced that at the State of the Union? Seems like a nice thing to clap about. Next, we go live to West Virginia, where the stage is set for the Fox News Channel's first primary debate of the midterm election season.
Wow.
West Virginia.
Well, Welcome back. President Trump issuing a strong message to Republicans as the midterm primary season heats up.
We cannot be complacent. We got to go out, right? We got to go out. We got to go out, and we got to fight like hell, and we got to win the House, and we got to win the Senate. And I think we're going to do great in the Senate, and I think we're going to do great in the House because the economy is so good.
And one Senate race that the GOP is betting on, West Virginia. 3 GOP candidates are vying for the nomination to take on Democrat Joe Manchin in November. Republicans believe this is a seat ripe for flipping. President Trump won the state by more than 40 points in 2016. And in a little over an hour from now, the Fox News channel will kick off our first debate of the midterm election season in the battleground state. Brett Baer and Martha MacCallum are moderating, and they join us now from the Metropolitan Theater in Morgantown. You guys got to go to like one of America's most beautiful states. Wanted to ask you, Chris Farwell gave a little bit of a tease on the Daily Briefing earlier today. He said the questions were quite good, and I wondered, how do you take a race like this that actually has national attention, but the candidates really want to focus on local issues? How have you figured out how to ask them those types of questions?
Hey, Dana, we've had a lot of fun putting together the questions. This is going to be a great debate because it not only touches on West Virginia issues, but a lot of West Virginia issues touch on national issues. The opioid crisis here is outsized, and obviously it's a major crisis around the country, but there are a lot of issues that intersect, and we've been working for a while on trying to come up with good, pointed questions.
It's also a really interesting race given how well President Trump did here and the fact that he has an 87% approval rating in West Virginia, Dana. So all of these candidates have tried to kind of out-Trump each other. So we're going to try to see how Trumpy they are and where they differ from the president on certain things. So that's going to be an interesting test. And I think it's also something that applies to all of the midterm races in one way, shape, or form across the country. And this is a great place to start.
Okay, well, all of us have questions. We'll go to Juan next.
Hi, I was so interested in the lineup. So tonight you've got Evan Jenkins, Patrick Morrisey, Don Blankenship, and Morrisey, of course, is the West Virginia Attorney General, and speaking to exactly what Brett was talking about, which is the opioid crisis. He is a guy who has sued the DEA. He said that he wants to do more, but then the comeback is that his wife was representing some of these pharmaceutical companies. It seems to me that that's a very difficult way for him to go here, and I don't know exactly how he handles that. Do you have any idea?
Well, don't take all our questions, Juan. I mean, come on.
Jimmy, hadn't thought of that
Seriously,
one.
what about that?
Exactly. You know, it is an interesting situation for all of them because they've all tried to prove that they have done something substantial on this issue. This is the #1 nation. It's a sad distinction that they lose more people here to opioid deaths than any other state across the country. So clearly they've all tried to be distinctive on this, and Patrick Morrisey, as you say, has a reputation for having gone after some of these companies, but he's got a complicated background, and I think that's all I'm going to say. We'll see where he's going to go on that.
There are a lot of questions that factors in, you know, like their past individually and how they deal with big issues that affect this state. And then the other, you know, elephant in the room is Joe Manchin, who's very popular in this state, despite the fact that as a Trump-favoring state, he's voted against repealing Obamacare and the president's tax cuts.
All right, Jesse.
Yeah, you just mentioned it. I mean, he's voted against the tax cuts and a vote against the Obamacare repeal, but he has voted with the president about 60% of the time, yet his approval rating plummeted about 17 points from the beginning of the year. When the Republican nominee gets there in November, is this going to be a close race or is this going to be tight?
It depends on who they eventually nominate and who's best positioned against Joe Manchin. And that's really what West Virginia Republicans want to know, is who on this stage is really going to be best positioned to go up against Manchin, because this could be one of the races that determines the balance of power in the U.S. Senate and thereby the future of the Trump administration.
Yeah, they all have vulnerabilities, but I think they do see that there is some blood in the water right now where Joe Manchin is concerned. As you say, his approval numbers have dipped considerably, and he's vulnerable. So this is a seat that Republicans want to try to pick up because they're very well aware that they may lose some across other places in the country, and they're trying to shore up those numbers on the Senate side because the numbers are not looking that great on the House side.
All right, Kimberly.
Hi, good evening, you guys. Good luck tonight. We'll be watching. So this is one of the races that everybody is really paying close attention to because, as you've said, it appears that, you know, Joe Manchin has somewhat of a target on his back, being vulnerable with his plummeting poll numbers, and also the close association in the past with President Obama, Hillary Clinton, the attack on coal in that particular state, making him somewhat vulnerable. He's also facing an environmental challenger. He's not running unopposed in the primary.
Right, and you know, Rolling Stone just did a big piece on the challenger to Joe Manchin on the Democratic side. We say we expect that the people on this stage will face Joe Manchin, and that's what most people in this state expect, is that he's going to win that primary challenge. But the tough part for them on the stage is to differentiate themselves from each other. Martha said, who is going to try to out-Trump each other? You know, on policy, they're very similar, but in personality and their backgrounds, they are very different.
All right, Greg. What you got?
I got my Brett Baer. I'll be watching the.
Seriously, I'm getting killed on Twitter.
I'm gonna be watching.
Snuggly guy.
I'm gonna watch your special coverage, holding the bear, and that's all I'm gonna say for now, because the bear means everything.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
What more can you say, really?
What can you? Is that a name tag on there? The little
Yeah,
sticker?
no, he's got a flag pin.
Yeah, okay.
Well,
good.
Brett Baer, you are certainly famous all over the country, especially in Morgantown. And Martha, Brett, it will be great to watch tonight. It's fun to see it all get underway. So we'll be watching. Thanks for joining us.
First to many.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys.
Special coverage begins at 6 p.m. Eastern on Special Report, followed by analysis on the story at 7:30. Ahead, Greg on the prom dress, making headlines. Right back.
I'm gonna be the first one calling you baby.
Out of dumb stories comes a great lesson. It starts with the high school student posting photos in her prom dress on social media. She's white and wore a traditional Chinese dress. This, according to the media, sparked outrage over culture appropriation. First, always beware of such BS. Stories like this are based on some weenie faking offense. And the media breathlessly covers it because we're just suckers for outrage. But as always, the cultural appropriation offense is a sham. The idea that it's racist to incorporate something from another culture is so morally bankrupt, it's actually deadly. Over time, healthy people adopt practices that enhance their lives, meaning they steal good things, not the bad. But all things come from somewhere else. So appropriation isn't just a compliment to a culture, it's how civilizations thrive. Do you wear pajamas? If you're not an Indian Muslim, you're racist. Pajamas originated from Indian Muslims. And God forbid the sheets you sleep on are of Egyptian cotton. Do you eat yogurt? That a lot of social justice warriors do. How racist is that to appropriate the diet of Central Asian herdsmen from 6000 BC? Do you walk upright? How dare you steal the practice initiated by Ardipithecus ramidus, the earliest hominid from Ethiopia? In sum, if you live your life by avoiding cultural appropriation, you'd have no life whatsoever. You didn't even evolve. At best, you'd just be stupid, which is a trait found in all cultures and stories generated by Twitter.
Oh, that was the main point.
You know, it's all started with some kid named Jeremy. He said, my culture is not your GD prom dress. He got 42,000 retweets, so that makes it a story.
Right, that's what I was going to say, is that part of it is that we've become so dependent on Twitter to actually help us figure out what the news is.
Yes.
We cover stupid stuff like this as if it's news.
Exactly.
This poor girl, she said, I just thought it was a beautiful dress. I wanted to wear a beautiful dress. And she found it at a thrift store or vintage shop in Utah.
Yeah. You know, Jesse, cultural appropriation, like, imagine if coats.
There's a whole list of things you can't or cannot do if you're going to abide by the strict rules of cultural
Oh,
appropriation.
you did this one time, I recall. Remember the time you had to wear the little J. Crew jacket and shorts on Outnumbered?
Yes, that was just bad fashion appropriation.
Yeah, that was a mistake.
That was interesting.
Juan, is there any example of cultural appropriation that is actually real? Like an outrage?
An outrage?
I mean, I can understand individual mistakes at Halloween, something that's very
got upset
stupid.
then, yeah.
Yes.
But cultural appropriation meaning like I'm wearing, you know, a pea coat is British. I shouldn't be wearing that.
Well, I can tell you one that just outraged me recently on this show. When you guys loved Kanye West, you took rap music. I said, okay, well, if you're going to take rap music...
Eminem took that a long time ago.
I
Wait till Kanye sings a country song.
There we go. I think that's coming soon, Dana. Coming to a radio near you.
The first rapper was really David Bowie.
Is that it? Okay. Well, he married a black woman, right? Yeah. You see what I'm talking about? It doesn't stop anywhere, America. But, you know, I was very interested in this because the idea that, as Kimberly, I think, was saying a moment ago, you look back at the Halloween thing, and you get a lot of the fraternities and sororities, they get in trouble, and they say they're dressing up, let's say, like black people, or like they put on the sombrero, and they say, we're dressing up for, actually, May 5th is coming up. And they say, oh, we're like Hispanic. Hispanic people are like, whoa, hold on, what are you doing here? It's not a matter of making fun of us. If you are part of us, you can understand it. But I don't think this young lady was making fun
of course not.
Of Chinese people with wearing their... I think she thought it was a nice dress.
It's a beautiful dress.
I just don't... I think it's overdone.
Well, you know, I mean, there's nice stores. If you look in the fashion market, like Shanghai Tang, that have really pretty dresses that are celebrating the, you know, fashion, the tapestry, the materials that are used to make dresses. I had a very nice black dress, kind of like that, but that was, you know, made in silk and had a little bit of a pattern on it. So why wouldn't you, if she wanted to choose it because she thought it was a beautiful dress and she wanted to have a special night and look great? I don't know. It's hard because people impugn motives, perhaps, on her that she wasn't.
And I like it that this, like, it seems like this generation of high school students, the women, the young girls, are picking dresses that they don't all look the same.
Right.
Part of the whole thing is to show more personality and have some individualism.
Absolutely.
Not just women, Dana. Men are picking dresses as well.
What do you make of the fact that she made the prayer gesture? Was that a little bit much?
No.
No.
No, it's fine.
No,
Praying's okay, Juan.
the villain in this whole thing is the person who tweeted and because he knew that the outrage, he wasn't really even mad. He just knew it'd get picked up and end up on a successful show like The Five, hosted by all of us.
Parents start silent screaming inside.
Yes.
They're like, please don't post
Yes.
that.
All right. The comedian from the White House Correspondents' Center has more to say, and the late night hosts are rushing to her defense. That's next.
A lot of people weren't happy with the comedian chosen to perform at this weekend's White House Correspondents' Dinner. That includes the group that selected her. The late night host, however, different story. They've rushed to Michelle Wolf's defense.
This was a roast, and you're the ones who hired Michelle Wolf. Being mad at her for doing her job is like accusing LA of briefly stealing your car.
You know, they hire these comedians because they're edgy, and then they get mad when they're edgy at the thing.
You hired her. That's like a parent sending an email saying yesterday's birthday was meant to celebrate Kevin turning 6 years old. Unfortunately, the stripper's dance routine was not in the spirit of the party.
That's pretty good.
Wow. Anyway, in a new interview, Wolf said she wouldn't change one word that she said Saturday night. What do you think, Greg?
Well, everybody there is absolutely 100% correct, and we even said this on our show yesterday. The White House Correspondents Association, that was an incredibly cowardly move on their part. They hired her. They knew what she was about to do. They wanted an edgy, they wanted shock. And they've done this, and then they distanced themselves. It's just completely, it's cowardice. And you know what? The next person that's asked to do it is going to have to formulate, you know, this occurrence. Like, should I skip it? Because what if I go too far? Will they have my back? The interesting, though, is that the same group of people that defended the comic didn't defend Kanye, which tells you who's more daring.
Huh, Dana?
Well, I do think that comedians often do stick up for each other because they know what it's like, and it could happen to them. It's sort of like, I do feel like we that do live television are sometimes more willing to come to the defense of people who maybe make a mistake live on air because you just know what it's like. So I think that it's appropriate for them to defend her.
So, Jesse, Seth Meyers said, it's wonderful. These are wonderful qualities, being edgy, insulting, badgering, coming from a comedian, but not from a world leader. And yet you see the same people who are upset with Michelle Wolf accept this kind of language from President Trump.
Yeah, but Trump's usually counterpunching.
Oh.
And I don't think Sarah Sanders did anything to deserve what she got from Michelle Wolf. But could we just address what Greg said in the break? Greg tried to claim that black people culturally appropriated rap from white people.
No, I thought David Bowie was the first to rap on a song "Golden Years," and then somebody tweeted me and said it was Bob Dylan. I think "Subterranean Homesick Blues."
Okay, so black people stole
That's
rap
pretty
from
good.
Dylan.
But I never used that phrase.
No,
fake news.
I misappropriated your phraseology.
I tell you what, I'm going to introduce white people on this show to the blues, but that's later.
You give us the blues.
So what was interesting was that Michelle Wolf in her interview, Kimberly, said, gee, I made fun of Mitch McConnell's neck. I made fun of Chris Christie's weight. Nobody has any problem with that. They're just upset about Trump.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, the problem is you're seeing a little bit back and forth, and we see a story play out over a couple of days, but I still take it back to the actual event, what transpired, what happened, the unkind, the mean-spirited things that were said, the bullying of Sarah Huckabee Sanders. And, you know, I'm still very upset about what happened there. I get that the comedians are coming to the defense, you know, Michelle. Okay, that's what they do, because they have to protect sort of their genre of what they do, their type of comedy, and a lot of it is very anti, you know, President Trump, very much like negative, holding up severed heads, the Shakespeare in the Park stuff, just a very intense level of, you know, vitriol that really doesn't show any kind of respect for, you know, for the office of the presidency or for the women that work for him, quite frankly.
Wow. Well, the one thing I saw that was new is that Jimmy Finkelstein, who's the publisher of The Hill, and I write a column for The Hill, has decided that he's pulling out. No more going to the White House Correspondents' Dinner, which is something the New York Times decided a while back. So we'll see where this goes.
Dana said
one
no more
thing.
comedians.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Dana said no more comedians.
Oh, okay. One more thing. It's up next.
That's another Safe Flight Advantage.
Time now for one more thing. Jesse, what do you have for us?
Ouch, that hurts. So, remember Pizza Rat? Yes, this rat became famous, dragging a piece of lunch across the stairs somewhere in downtown Manhattan. Well, guess what? Pizza Rat is back. This is the 2018 version of Pizza Rat.
Oh, my God.
There he is. We don't know if it's the same rat or a different rat. We haven't interviewed the rat yet. I think Griff Jenkins is going to go out there with the camera. Apparently, the rat loves de Blasio. He can roam around the city wherever he wants. No one ever bothers him. No one ever tries to kill him. He's very well protected here in the city.
No stopping, Chris.
No one frisks him.
Right.
Not true. De Blasio's killing all the rats.
Really?
He is, yep.
Okay, well, this is fake news. Okay, now, in real news, this is What a Cutie Patootie. Take a look. Lennox Salcedo, the adorable 3-year-old little baseball player, and this has gone viral with his hilarious run to home plate. He was playing a baseball game in his hometown of Walnut, California, when the coach told him to run home base as fast as he could. So he had his own little interpretation of those directions. Of course, went the exact opposite way, and then he ran in slow motion instead.
What a hot dog.
That's what happened.
Yeah.
When his father tried to give him a nudge, he resisted. For him.
The showboat.
What a cutie. All right, 5 million times viewed. View it again. All right,
Safe. I love that. You know, your favorite show, The Five, has been on the air for 6 years. So imagine being on the air for 29 straight years.
Oh, my.
Watch who just broke that record.
Can't let you break my record.
Yes, The Simpsons, now the longest-running scripted TV show in American history, outgunning, as you just saw, Gunsmoke, which previously held the record. It started in 1989. The Simpsons has had 636 episodes and made Homer, Marge, Bart, and Lisa, and Maggie, as well as my favorite, Donuts, into a favorite of every kid, big and small, even Jesse. You like that show.
I do love that show.
There you go.
That's wonderful. All right, well, that was a good one. Fantastic. Excellent choices. All right, great.
Time for Greg's birds are finally rising up to take over the world news. It was only a matter of time before they got tired of humans, little meat robots that shoot them out of the sky. Birds are now fighting back. Let's go to Malibu, California. Number 1, this is a graduation at Pepperdine. Whoa. The Pelicans have had enough. The Pelicans said, screw you, students. We're the real winners here. Look at this. They actually attacked. Do you know that 40 people died? Of embarrassment. All right, let's go. Let's go to the next one quickly. We don't have time. Here is a giant inflatable duck that people believe is empty but filled with thousands of murderous ducks that escaped a charity event in Des Moines, Iowa after breaking free of its tethers. Run, little ducky, run. Be free. It's just like Westworld.
Oh, we know about that. Westworld Robot. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, Tina Farina.
Well, I have one that's very educational and helpful to all of you at home who might be considering looking for a job or moving where, whatever. There is a labor shortage in the United States. There's a 4.1% unemployment rate. That's a 17-year low. So we've been talking about the economy a lot. This is an amazing thing. Cities across the United States are trying to combat the problem of not having enough workers by trying to lure you there. They are offering cash. They're going to pay off your student loans. You can get like free rent for like 3 months. All sorts of stuff is happening. This was in the Wall Street Journal today, so check it out. 2 places to mention. Hamilton, Ohio promises $5,000 to help pay student loans. Grant County, Indiana will give $5,000 towards buying a home. And some are calling it a modern-day Homestead Act. Jesse, this is very helpful for people who want to find a job.
You turned down the rat for that?
I turned down the rat. I turned down the stupid pizza rat.
All right, we're good. Hey, set your DVRs. Never miss an episode of The Five. Special report up next live from Morgantown, West Virginia tonight. Hey, Brett.
Hey, Kimberly, thank you. The special counsel wants to question President Trump. We have the list of what they want to know. And we're live here in Morgantown, West Virginia for the first big debate of the election season as Republicans here hope to turn this Democratic Senate seat red. This is Special Report.